All right, all right. Welcome back. I am your host, Garrett Bacon. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Today, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that came up that some of the people that I work with have been struggling with. And as I started to list these out, and as I started to think about them, I realized that it wasn't just something that they struggled with. It was something that I struggled with as well. And in fact, it's something that most of us struggle with. And these are things that ultimately hold us back from success. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that normally I start off with a story and then relate it back to what it is that we're talking about. But this time I'm going to do it slightly different. I'm going to actually talk about these 9 things that are holding us back. And as I'm talking about each of the 9, I'm going to share a little story or a little something that has to do with each of them. Because ultimately, what I want is the same thing that you want, and that's success. Now, success looks different to you than it does for me, and that's okay. But ultimately, these traits, these things that we focus on, if we are looking at them the wrong way, or if we're focusing on the negative side of things, ultimately we're not ever going to achieve success. Now, listen, I will preface this by saying it's not as easy as it sounds. I'm going to talk about 9 different things, and these are things that took me years sometimes to overcome. But it always begins with awareness, being aware of what it is that you're struggling with, and then trying to find a solution for it. So not only am I going to talk about these struggles, but I'm going to talk about some mindset shifts and the things that you can take into account and maybe incorporate into your life that will help you find the success that you're after. But I want to make this clear. Physical, emotional, and mental strength is required. Period. Those online who are selling the easy path to success, they're lying to you. And you keep buying their courses and you keep watching their videos. And somehow you're still exactly where you were last week, last month, last year. You want more, you have to start to do things differently. And as I talked about a couple episodes before, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to the episode on belief. I talk about it starts with you. Everything starts with you. The belief inside of you, whether you believe it's going to happen or not, that's going to determine the actions that you take. So, enough talk. Let's get into it. The 9 biggest obstacles that people put in their own path to success. Okay? The first one, envy. How many of you guys have spent time like looking around or going around and saying, oh, I really wish I had what they had? Or man, they have it so easy. Look at their nice house and their nice car and they're making millions of dollars and blah, 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 blah. How many times have you found yourself doing this? I have. Many times. You start counting, as they say, the other person's blessings instead of your own. And if you're not careful, what happens? You start to envy their happiness and their good fortune. The problem is that envy is nothing but an illusion. See, the truth is there's plenty to go around. When I first got into the space, I'm looking at, man, I gotta compete against Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and Brendan Bouchard and all these guys. And the truth is, no, I don't. There's people out there that are looking for me. Cool. So I just have to go find them. In other words, there's plenty to go around. You just have to make the decision to go and get it. Quit focusing on the other people and start focusing on yourself. Number 2, perfectionism. What is perfectionism? I heard a person once say that perfectionism is self-abuse of the highest order. It's not a quest to be the best, but allowing yourself to be governed by that voice in your head that is the harshest critic at all, or harshest critic of all. Because there is no such thing as perfection. Can we just put that out there? Look at the best sports teams you've ever seen. Are they ever perfect? No. They're never perfect. But what the good teams and the good companies and the good people do, or I should say successful, is they focus on one thing and one thing only. That's progress over perfection. Progress over perfection. In other words, to build off of envy, you can't compare yourself to somebody else. You can only compare yourself to where it is that you are right now. And so based off of where you are right now, it's about making progress. In other words, getting better every day, getting better, getting better, getting better. And the progress will lead you to what you want, not the quest for perfection. All right, number 3, comparison. How many times have you played the comparison game? I'm not as good as, I'm not as smart as, I'm not as eloquent as, I'm not as strong as, I'm not as pretty as, I'm not as cute as, I'm not as. And ultimately, all you're doing is wasting time and energy, because I don't know if you noticed this or not, there is no one like you. Congratulations. So instead of playing the comparison game, what if you play off of your uniqueness? The fact that you're not like everybody else. The fact that you do things a certain way. See, when I got into this space of being a business owner, I thought that I needed to do things like everyone else, that I needed to talk like them, that I needed to act like them, that I needed to set up my structures and processes like them. The truth is, I needed to be myself, because people are attracted to me. And if I'm not me, then they don't know I exist. If I try to be like them, then they think I'm a what? A copycat. So stop being like somebody else and be yourself. Number 4, blaming. Oh man, you know that I am the king, or I should say was the king of blaming. Blaming someone or something else because my life wasn't working the way I wanted to. Because I didn't have the body that I wanted. Because I wasn't having as much sex as I wanted. Because I wasn't making as much money as I wanted. All of these things were based off of my inability to own it. That's it. Own it. So you can blame everyone else for the things that aren't working in your life, or you can become a problem solver. See, there's a saying that says, the solution to your problem is not around it, but it's through it. Let me say that again. The solution to your problem is not around it, but it's through it. You must be willing to go through your problems and not blame someone else for them, because your solution, your progress, your growth, and everything that you want is on the other side of that problem. All right, the next one, number 5, self-doubt. How many times have you found yourself either in the morning or in the evening, or right before you get on stage, or right before you get on camera, or right before you talk to a client or a customer, telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, this isn't going to work, I'm going to fail, so on and so forth. And we call this the self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you don't believe that it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. It's that simple. The biggest war you'll ever fight is the war inside of your head. And I talk about this almost every single week, right? We talk about winning the daily war, winning the daily war, winning the daily war. What is the daily war? The daily war is with you. It's inside of your head. So if you're struggling with self-doubt, you need to start exercising your mind. You need to start talking to yourself positively. You need to start processing the issues that you're facing, so that instead of looking at them like a problem, you look at them as a possibility. Your mind will ultimately determine whether you win or you don't. Number 6, very similar, fear. What is fear? I like to use fear as this acronym: false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Because that's all fear is. If you're afraid of failing, you will never what? Act. You will never take an action. Fear is the mind's way of saying that there's something important for you to understand. So don't allow it to stand in your way of success. See, your primitive brain is set up to keep you alive. And anything that's outside of the quote-unquote comfort zone will what? Will hurt you. So your mind wants to keep you alive. And so it programs fear in there to keep you, what it thinks, safe. But you know that in order for you to get what you want, you have to take that action. So acknowledge the fear that you have, but understand that it's false evidence appearing real. And then take that action. Number 7, distraction. I can tell you I've never dealt with this. Just kidding. This is one of the biggest things that has affected me in my life. Distraction. Like the phone's always a click away, or the computer, or the radio, or the conversation, or something other than doing exactly what needs to be done. When did my life start to change? It started to change when I, one, acknowledged that I procrastinated, but two, started to take the steps necessary to eliminate the distractions. Because the distractions lead to another one of these steps, which is procrastination. We'll talk about that one. But the distractions kept me from doing what needed to be done in order to get the results that I wanted. In order for me to get the results I want, I have to take action. But if I'm distracted by technology, by family, by whatever it is, then I'm never going to take the steps necessary to get what it is that I need to get done. So you have to learn to block out the noise. You have to learn to set up a process and a system for that to happen. And I shared some of that with you, and I'll continue to share those with you. There's some things like time blocking. There's things like you put yourself in a space where, you have no distractions. One of the reasons that I had to get an office was not because I needed an office. It was because I couldn't be at home because I was so distracted. So put yourself in a position to what? To succeed. Number 8, safety. You've heard about these surveys, these polls that they do with people who are in nursing homes or people who are on their deathbeds and asking them about regrets. And 99% of them don't say that they regret what they did with their life. They say that they regret what they didn't do when they had the chance. See, at that point, there's no oops. There's only if only. See, life is too short to wake up with regrets. If you want to succeed, you have to take chances. You have to be bold. And you have to be willing to accept the fact that you might fail, but that failure is the only way that you're going to succeed. And last but not least, good old procrastination. My favorite form of self-sabotage. If I don't write it down, and if I don't have the time set aside to get it done, the likelihood of me getting it done, it hinges somewhere between slim and none. Procrastination is the biggest obstacle that I face. See, because procrastination leads to worrying, and worrying leads to doubt, and doubt leads to lack of belief, which means I'm not going to do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes and you have a whole set of tomorrow things that need to get done. And so the thing that needs to get done never gets done because you just keep procrastinating it. So what's the one thing that you can do to overcome procrastination? Discipline. Now there's a few different ways to do that, but what I like to do is a reward punishment basis. In other words, if I do what I said I'm going to do, then I reward myself. It could be something simple like a treat. It could be something like some time off. It could be something like I reward myself by going to a football game. It doesn't matter, but I reward myself. Why? Because that makes me want to procrastinate less. If I don't do it, punishment, which really sucks. Nobody likes punishment. But there's different methods out there, and I challenge you to find one that works for you, because procrastination is the biggest form of self-sabotage and will ultimately keep you from going where it is that you want to go. Now listen, these are just nine things that are holding you back from success. But I want you to know that there's a common theme in all of these, and that is you. You. And if you've heard me talk about it before, you know this, but I'm going to keep talking about it. The biggest war that you'll ever face is the war inside of your head. So you have to set yourself up for success. How do I do that? I have a very strict morning routine. A morning routine that's not just set up in randomness, but there's a specific purpose in everything that I do. I set up my days for success. I set up my weeks for success. I'm always taking an action that's taking me where do I want to go. And you can do the same too. So if you're interested in some of these things, I've got some free things for you. If you go to winthedailywar.com, I've got something called an app, APP. That's right. Everybody needs their own app. It's an accelerated performance plan. You want to know how I get the results that I get in life? That's by taking those steps, by mapping it out and then taking action. I've also got a free 30-day guide if you're looking for, or a 30-day challenge. If you're looking for, a new morning routine, if you're looking for, some structure to it, you can take that challenge. That's free there for you. And then I've also got some assessments there for you where it'll help you figure out where it is that you are right now in your life, which is one of the hardest things that we really face is the inability to look in the mirror and say, this is exactly where I'm at right now. All right. That's all I got for you. As always, remember, it's easier to stay ready than it is to get ready. How do we stay ready? Go find some of those tools at winthedailywar.com. We'll talk to you soon.